Nuts to this.
Godzilla Minus One did the impossible for me. Actually, it did multiple things that I thought were impossible, and I am in absolute awe of this film because of it. Number one, it made Godzilla absolutely terrifying again. As most of you probably know, Godzilla's debut in the 1954 movie, first bearing his
Nombre.
was first and foremost a grim and alarming monster movie wherein the monster was an unstoppable force of nature that emphasized the frightful and dismaying use of more and more powerful nuclear weapons that the Americans and Soviets were testing at the time during the Cold War. Japan was the only country to have ever been nuked.
So far.
And this acceleration of the nuclear weapons race scared the shit out of them especially bad. Minus One brings back that fear of an indestructible behemoth that walks around and blows up whatever the f it wants to, while making it perfectly clear that there's nothing that humans can do to stop it. All of the major action pieces take place during the day too, and the filmmakers don't try to hide any subpar effects with darkened night shots like most CGI fest movies do today. Godzilla is scary as hell in this thing. He never blinks, appears to be totally pissed off every time he appears on screen, and we see him slaughter tons of innocent people during the course of this flick. He is a living, walking nuclear weapon. And his atomic breath in this thing? Godzilla damn, it was more horrific than it's been in any previous movie. Shin Godzilla's nuclear attack beam scene is more just like, whoa, in comparison. Minus One's equivalent spectacle will make you say, holy fucking goddamn shit. The second impossible thing that Minus One did was make the human characters' plights as interesting and entertaining as the kaiju destruction. It's been about 15 or so years since I last saw the original 1954 movie, and I do remember being involved in Emiko, Ogata, and Serizawa Sensei's predicaments and relationships, but overall I just wanted more of Godzilla's rampages. Minus One, however, brings us the plights of Koichi, Noriko,
and the freaking cutest Japanese kid you have ever seen, Akiko.
Koichi is a cowardly, their word, not mine, kamikaze pilot who bailed on his mission to crash his bomb-laden plane into an American naval ship when it was already clear that the Japanese had lost the war. He witnesses an early Godzilla attack on a Japanese Air Force mechanic base when the beast was only about T-Rex sized. Koichi chickens out in his attempt to kill the pissed-off dinosaur with his plane's heavy guns, and due to his inaction, more than a dozen mechanics were stomped to death by the large reptile right in front of his eyes. Koichi then goes full PTSD as he stumbles back to his hometown, the firebombed to hell Tokyo, and finds his parents
dead as doornails.
He then gets chastised by his surviving neighbors and soon bumps into another orphan, Noriko, pretty girl who took on the role of infant Akiko's protector when the kid's parents died too. I'm telling you, this movie is an almost constant downer.
Oh no! Anyway.
And to make a long story short, too late!
Godzilla gets irritated. Well, he gets irritated and irradiated by further American atomic bomb testing and soon mutates into a gigantic, invulnerable, pissed-off monster determined to mark his territory all over the Western Pacific, mainly Japan. Koichi has to deal with the fact that all the deaths caused by Godzilla are essentially on his soul. Noriko has to try and raise Akiko while eventually attempting to rebuild her own life while still depending on Koichi, and Akiko has to stop being so goddamn cute.
Oh my god, her cuteness factor, if weaponized could kill Godzilla for sure.
My point is that even if there were no Godzilla in this Godzilla movie, it would still be a very engaging tale of PTSD, depression, survivor's guilt, and innocence living through an apocalyptic nightmare. It's just brilliant storytelling. The third impossible thing that they did with this movie is they made me fucking cry. No Godzilla movie, hell, no monster movie has ever made me shed an authentic emotional tear that I can recall. But there were at least 3 instances in this flick where I felt water leaking out of my eyes. I am man enough to admit that. I was that engaged with the story and the characters. Bravo, writer and director Takashi Yamazaki. You did a goddamn amazing job. Minus One is a really tightly driven and paced 2-hour movie that never feels like it slows down, even during the quiet, character-driven parts. I was never bored and never found myself looking at my watch during its runtime. It is, to me, the ultimate Godzilla movie. Other than that, I wanted to touch on the nostalgic aspects of the movie. Minus One, which, if you didn't know, refers to the thought that at the end of World War II, Japan was firebombed and nuked by the US back to zero. And then, just as they started to rebuild from the ashes, Godzilla appears and takes them to -1. It is essentially a remake of the 1954 movie, checking things off that were important to the original flick, like the time period, Godzilla's debutante ball on Oda Island, Godzilla sinking over a dozen ships off screen, then rampaging through Tokyo and eating a train. But make no mistake that this update is its own monster.
パンインテンディッド
The final scientific and military attack on Godzilla made me think that they were going to pull the super science oxygen destroyer bomb out of their asses that the original film used to ultimately kill the kaiju, but luckily they went with a more realistic and grounded plan. No spoilers on the last half of this movie from me though. It is something that I believe all Godzilla fans need to experience for themselves. They also pull out the ultimate nostalgic weapon in the form of the Self-Defense Force March at some key moments in this flick. You know the music. Whenever it starts up, you start looking around for a giant reptile to pop its head out of the Pacific and start setting off the radiation sensors. It's just the cherry on top of this production, and I'm so glad they didn't completely leave it out. Watch it or not, I don't care, but I love the hell out of this movie. It's not just a great Godzilla movie, it's a fantastic work of art. Right now, I have it tied with the original in my best to worst ordering system of Godzilla movies that I'm required to make as an amateur Godzillaologist. But upon further viewings, I could easily see it becoming the top pick by itself. I give it a solid A+. I am so happy Japan made another Godzilla flick and that they went all in with it. You know, on second thought, there was another Godzilla movie wherein I cared just as much for a human character as the kaiju battles. Whenever Mayor Mike Haggar was on the screen in Final Wars, I was enthralled.